Welcome to your personal revolution.
Hi, everyone.
If you're, maybe in your 40s and you're feeling that sort of pull for something more, especially maybe in your relationships or just unlocking your own potential.
Then yeah, you've definitely landed in the right place.
Absolutely.
You're here to explore how you can really connect better with yourself first and then build those stronger, more fulfilling relationships. It's not always about grand gestures, right? It's more about understanding what makes us all tick.
It really is. I'm Bea, and as a life and mindset coach, I see it all the time, how our own internal stuff, those beliefs we don't even realize we have, the emotional habits,
Yeah.
they can be the biggest roadblocks, honestly, in creating the love and the life that you actually want. So my focus is really helping you spot those blocks and navigate through them.
And I'm Max. Working alongside B, my role is kind of bringing a practical angle to all this. I look at how we can use, let's say, clearer frameworks, tangible shifts in how you see things, really to build healthier connections and, well, unlock that personal growth we're talking about. Think of it like providing the actionable steps that really work hand in hand with B's insights into the why.
Exactly, because ultimately our mission working together here is to give you both the understanding and the practical tools.
Tools you can use.
Yes, tools you can actually use to, take charge, to actively shape your personal evolution, especially in how you relate to yourself and to other people.
We really believe that understanding your own mind, your own patterns, and the dynamics in your relationships, that's just key. It's fundamental to living a more empowered and, frankly, more joyful life.
It is.
It's about spotting those patterns, maybe ones you've been repeating, and then making conscious choices to do things differently.
So if you're ready to really dive into what it takes to build those stronger bonds and tap into your potential right now at this stage of life, then stick with us.
We're genuinely excited to explore these really important parts of personal growth with you.
Welcome, truly, to your personal revolution.
Okay, so just as we sort of close out this initial thought, maybe consider this. Your personal revolution, whether it's in relationships or just your own growth, it isn't really about finding some, perfect finish line.
That's such a good point. It's not. It's really an ongoing thing, right? A process of learning, changing, evolving.
Exactly.
So maybe just think about this. What's one small shift? Just one tiny change in how you think about yourself, maybe? Or how you approach a relationship. What's one thing you could perhaps explore today?
Yeah, just let that question kind of sit with you for a bit.
We'll be back soon.
Welcome to the deep dive. Let's jump right into something I know many of you, and yeah, me too, have probably wrestled with. You're putting in the work, those affirmations, setting positive intentions. But, well, sometimes it feels like you're just spinning your wheels, not really getting anywhere new. Why is that? Why does it sometimes feel like even when our mind is so set on making a change, it doesn't quite stick?
Yeah, that's a really common thing people run into. And what I've found through experience and working with people is that the answer often lies in our bodies. We can consciously try super hard to shift our thinking, but if our actual physical system is running from a place of perceived threat, it's almost like trying to tell a smoke alarm. It's fine when it senses heat. It just won't listen.
Okay, this idea, the body holding the key. Let's unpack that a little. It feels intuitive, right? We've all had those times where we think we should be relaxed, but, our shoulders are practically up by our ears.
Absolutely. Our bodies, they don't really lie, do they? They're constantly giving us feedback about what's actually going on inside. So even if we're projecting positivity mentally, our body might be stuck holding on to this chronic tension or maybe a low-level hum of anxiety, just this feeling of unease. And this often points to what we call survival mode, that deep-seated fight, flight, or freeze response.
Fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah. And what's interesting, really fascinating actually, is how often this gets triggered now. It's not usually actual physical danger like our ancestors faced. It's more the buildup of modern life stressors demanding jobs, maybe tricky family dynamics, money worries, all that stuff. Our nervous system doesn't always know the difference between, say, a lion and a mountain of emails.
What's the scary thought, the email lion? So, okay, what are some of those quieter signs, the physical whispers that might tell us we're stuck in that survival state, even if we don't feel terrified?
Well, the body has lots of little signals. You might notice yourself maybe clenching your jaw a lot without realizing it. Or perhaps the tightness in your chest, your stomach. Maybe just ongoing muscle aches that don't seem to have a cause. Physiologically, things are happening too. Your cortisol levels, that's the stress hormone, the body's alarm bell, they might be consistently high. You might also just have a slightly faster heart rate than normal, maybe shallow breathing. It's all signs your system is sort of on guard, prioritizing just getting through,
Oh,
self-preservation.
it really is like the body has its own truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
And our minds are just trying to argue with it sometimes.
Yeah.
So how does this physical state, this tension and alertness, how does it actually block those positive affirmations that we're trying so hard to make work?
Well, think about when affirmations seem to work best. It's usually when there's a sense of inner alignment, right? A feeling of safety, of peace, where your thoughts and your body feelings are kind of in sync. But if you're repeating, I am calm, I am peaceful, while your body is buzzing with anxiety underneath, there's this big disconnect. It feels hollow, doesn't it?
Totally hollow, yeah.
Yeah.
The words just hang there. They don't sink in. They don't feel real. Like telling yourself you're full when your stomach's rumbling loudly.
Exactly that. Your nervous system, think of it like a bodyguard. Its main job is your safety. So when it picks up on a perceived threat, and that could be anything, a work deadline, an unresolved argument, even just a stressful memory, it hits the stop and survive button.
Yeah.
And when that happens, resources get shifted away from things like growth, creativity, building those new positive pathways, and towards immediate protection. It's like this built-in filter that just shouts, survival first! And those positive affirmations, they just get sidelined. The body's message of tense and unsafe is just louder, basically. It holds more weight.
Okay, so if just trying to think positive thoughts on top of a stressed body isn't the full picture, what is? What's a more effective way in? How do we shift that deeper bodily state?
The real key, the missing piece for so many people is learning what we call nervous system regulation. It's about consciously learning how to guide your system out of that chronic survival pattern and back towards a place of, balance, resilience. And it's not about aiming for some impossible state of being calm 24/7. That's not realistic. It's more about building the capacity to, ride the waves of life, the stresses, without getting permanently stuck in high alert.
Nervous system regulation. Okay, it sounds vital, but maybe a little abstract. Can you break that down? Like, what does that actually look like, feel like day to day?
Yeah, good question. At its heart, regulation is about your inner flexibility, your ability to feel different emotions, move through different states that life brings stressful, calm, happy, sad, without losing your connection to yourself. And crucially, it's about having the ability to come back to a baseline of calm or equilibrium after something's thrown you off balance. It means you can handle different inputs, internal feelings, external events, without just getting totally overwhelmed. And maybe the most important part, it lets you actually feel your emotions, all of them, without judging them, stuffing them down, or, blowing them way out of proportion.
So it's definitely not about just putting on a brave face or pretending things are fine when they're not.
Exactly. Not at all. Regulation is the capacity to genuinely feel the joy, the grief, the anger, the fear, the whole messy human range, without either shutting down or getting completely swept away. It involves being aware, like mindfully aware of where your nervous system is at any given moment. Am I feeling keyed up, shut down, or actually kind of grounded and open? And then, importantly, having some tools, some skills to gently guide yourself back towards balance when you notice you've been knocked off center. It's about building trust. Trusting your body's signals as useful information, not as something scary or wrong. Like if you feel exhaustion setting in, regulation means you can listen to that, maybe pause, instead of just pushing through and criticizing yourself for being tired.
That difference, trusting the signals versus fighting them, that really lands.
Yeah.
Okay, so what isn't regulation? Because I think we sometimes get confused about that too.
That's a great point. Regulation is definitely not about suppressing emotions. It's not about trying to switch them off just to fit in or seem like you've got it all together. It's also not about using spiritual ideas to kind of bypass difficult feelings. That good vibes only thing when you're actually feeling really rough underneath. Spiritual bypassing, they call it. And maybe most importantly, it's not about striving for some perfect, constant state of zen or bliss. Our nervous systems are meant to be dynamic. They respond to life. Regulation isn't about never getting upset. It's about knowing how to find your way back to your center after you've been upset or stressed. It's the return journey that matters.
That makes so much more sense. That pressure to be constantly on or positive can be exhausting in itself. Okay, so what are the signs then? How might we recognize if our nervous system is, Dysregulated.
When your system is consistently feeling unsafe or just overloaded, it shows up in various ways. You might find it really hard to concentrate, for instance, or have that constant mental chatter, thoughts just racing all the time, that baseline body tension we talked about, tight shoulders, clenched jaw. You might also find yourself maybe overreacting to small things, or feeling guilty, frustrated with yourself because you feel like you should be coping better but just can't seem to. And sometimes, paradoxically, it can show up as feeling numb, just kind of checked out, emotionally flat, disconnected.
Right, I can see how those could all be signs of the system just being overwhelmed.
Hmm.
So on the flip side, what happens when we start to cultivate this regulation? What are the benefits we might start to notice?
Oh, the benefits are, well, they can be really life-changing, honestly. You start to develop a much deeper self-awareness. You get clearer on your actual needs, what you're feeling, where your boundaries are. That fear of intense emotions, it tends to lessen quite a bit because you learn you can feel strongly without being completely consumed by it. You learn how to navigate it. You also start to reconnect with your body in a richer way, not just noticing the tension, but also rediscovering pleasure, joy, your intuition, maybe even finding more creativity flowing. You might find you can be more present in your life, more engaged, without feeling so easily drained or overwhelmed by everything going on. And I think underpinning it all is this growing sense of self-trust, knowing deep down that you have the inner resources to find your way back to yourself no matter what life throws at you.
That sounds amazing, actually. That sense of inner peace or maybe inner safety that isn't totally dependent on whether everything outside is perfect or calm.
Exactly. That's the core of it. You cultivate this fundamental sense of safety within yourself. So even when things are uncertain or scary outside, you have this inner anchor. And from that place, that more grounded, resilient place, you're not just reacting to life all the time. You actually start to feel empowered to consciously create the life you want.
You mentioned stress earlier, and it feels so tangled up with everything we're talking about, survival mode, regulation. Can we maybe just pause and get really clear on the difference between, say, everyday stress and what you call emotional overload? Are they the same thing?
That's a really important distinction to make. They're definitely related, stress and emotional overload, and one can certainly lead to the other, but they do have slightly different roots and impacts. Understanding the difference helps you figure out how best to respond. So stress is typically our reaction to external challenges or pressures. Think deadlines, difficult conversations, maybe a sudden unexpected bill. It's that natural response that kicks in the fight or flight system, the sympathetic nervous system. You get the cortisol spike, the faster heart rate, all those physical things preparing you to deal with a perceived challenge. Short-term stress can actually be helpful, right? It can motivate us, but
Yeah.
chronic unmanaged stress, that's when it leads to burnout.
Okay, so stress reaction to outside stuff, activating the system.
Mm.
Got it. What about emotional overload then? How's that different?
Emotional overload is more about your internal capacity to handle the sheer volume or intensity of the emotions you're experiencing. It's less about the trigger itself and more about feeling like you're drowning in the feeling. It often comes from maybe an accumulation of things you haven't processed, layers of grief, anger, fear just building up, or maybe dealing with several really big, difficult situations all at once. Or going through a major life crisis. It's when the amount you're feeling just exceeds your current ability to cope, to process it all.
And how did that feel different inside compared to just being stressed?
With emotional overload, the dominant feeling is often just overwhelm, like you said, drowning. You might feel incredibly irritable, perhaps helpless. Sometimes it leads to bigger emotional reactions, maybe sudden crying spells or outbursts that feel disproportionate. Or, like we mentioned with dysregulation, sometimes the system tries to cope by just numbing out, shutting down feelings because it's too much. So while stress often feels activated, kind of wired or on edge from the fight or flight chemicals, emotional overload often leaves you feeling deeply depleted, drained, exhausted on an emotional level.
Okay, that distinction is really helpful. Stress, often external trigger, feels activating. Overload, more internal capacity reached, feels depleting. So, knowing that, how should our approach to coping differ? If I recognize I'm mostly stressed versus mostly overloaded,
Yeah.
what do I do?
Yeah, tailoring the approach is key, and it's primarily stress from external pressures, too much on your plate, tight deadlines, then practical strategies often help most. Things like better time management, learning to say no, setting clear boundaries, building in regular relaxation breaks. Those can directly address the source.
Makes sense. Tackle the external triggers, and if it's more that feeling of internal emotional overload, Sounds like time management isn't quite the right tool there.
Exactly. If you're feeling emotionally overloaded, the focus needs to be more inward. It's less about managing tasks and more about tending to your inner state. So prioritizing genuine rest and activities that actually replenish you emotionally, not just distract you. Making space to gently process those built-up emotions, maybe through journaling, talking to a trusted friend or therapist, meditation, even just allowing yourself to cry if you need to. Working on emotional boundaries becomes really important too, learning to protect your energy and finding safe ways to express what you're feeling rather than letting it keep accumulating inside. Seeking support is huge here.
Okay. Are there any sort of foundational things we can do, practices that help build that general emotional balance, whether we're leaning more stress or overload at any given time?
Oh, absolutely. Building emotional balance is an ongoing practice. One key thing is regular self-check-ins, just pausing a few times a day. What am I feeling right now? What might be underneath that? No judgment, just noticing. Prioritizing tiny breaks for reset helps massively. Even just 2 minutes of deep breathing, stepping outside for fresh air, a quick walk around the block, these little resets can stop things from escalating. Practicing gratitude is surprisingly powerful too. It sounds simple, but consciously focusing on what's okay, what you appreciate, can genuinely help regulate your nervous system and shift your perspective, especially when things feel hard. And probably the biggest one, learn to recognize your own early warning signs of overwhelm. And don't wait until you're completely swamped. Reach out for support sooner rather than later, friends, family, professionals. You really don't have to tough it out alone.
Wow. And this has been incredibly insightful, really clarifying why sometimes those positive intentions just seem to, well, bounce off. It hammers home that deep connection between mind, body, and especially our nervous system state.
Precisely. Understanding that regulating our nervous system isn't just a nice to have, it's really foundational for lasting well-being. That's the game changer. It creates that stable inner ground, that feeling of safety, where positive changes, affirmations, new intentions, they can actually land, take root, and, really grow.
So the true power isn't just in the thinking, is it? It's in cultivating that safe, balanced inner world where the positive thoughts have fertile ground. It's definitely a journey. Requires kindness to ourselves,
Yeah.
patience, learning to work with our system, not just against it. Thank you. This has been so valuable.
So we often hear from you, right, about reaching that point where you just, you sense there's something more, that feeling.
Yeah, like you're capable of breaking through something. And honestly, from everything we've seen guiding people, that feeling, it's usually spot on.
Absolutely. There's this incredible potential inside everyone, and it often just starts with acknowledging, okay, I'm ready to move past this thing that feels limiting.
And what's really interesting is that those limits, they are always these, huge concrete walls. Sometimes it's more subtle.
Like habits of thinking.
Exactly. Or emotional patterns that maybe keep you going in circles. The real key, we find, is sort of bringing those unconscious things into the light.
Right. Creating space for something new by seeing the old patterns. And, guiding people through this, the biggest hurdle isn't always the big change itself. It's often just getting started.
That first step, it's shifting from just wanting it to, well, actively doing something about it.
Yeah, making that conscious choice to actually engage with those maybe emotional blocks or beliefs.
And look, if you're feeling that readiness, if this conversation resonates and you're thinking, okay, I want to take that step, we've actually designed something specific for this.
We have. It's a focused experience we're calling Your Personal Revolution.
Think of it as a dedicated pathway, a way to really begin that process of breaking free,
And over 7 days, the main goal really is to help you start identifying and understanding those emotional blockages.
Yeah, and the limiting beliefs, too, that might be holding you back from, like, feeling the way you actually want to feel deep down.
It's about kicking off a genuine shift, starting that deeper transformation inside.
When it's practical. That's important. Each day you get a specific task. It's not just theory.
No vague ideas. These are actionable things, exercises designed to boost your self-awareness.
Right, and connect you with what really feels authentic for you.
So the real value here, it's about actively participating in your own emotional transformation, day by day.
You'll be taking concrete steps, little by little, to understand and work through whatever feels stuck.
And to help you with that, especially in this initial phase, we've put together some specialized tools.
Yeah, and inspiring materials, too, things drawn from our experience and work. It's all structured, step by step.
So you can navigate it without feeling, completely overwhelmed by it all.
Exactly.
And we really believe that this kind of opportunity, this chance to initiate real personal change, It should be accessible to anyone who feels that pull towards growth.
Absolutely. Which is why we wanted to offer this Your Personal Revolution Challenge with a name your price approach.
Meaning you decide. You decide the value you want to place on this 7-day experience.
Based on what feels right for you, what fits your situation right now, and I guess your commitment level to starting this journey.
It puts you in control right from the start.
Yeah. You're in the driver's seat.
So if this is speaking to you, if you're feeling that inner nudge towards something more, and you feel ready to take that really crucial first step, you can find all the details, everything you need to know about how to join the 7-day Your Personal Revolution. It's all available via the link in our profile description.
We genuinely believe in your potential for positive change. We see it all the time.
We do.
Consider this an invitation, really. An invitation to start exploring that potential within you.
And to begin creating that emotional freedom you're looking for. It's possible.
It really is. Just take that first step.